Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So now we're going to have something about yoga. You know, years ago, I remember having a yoga teacher. She was probably 75 years old, and she had been doing yoga for 40 years, and she would be on my radio show doing yoga breathing. Now, I must have been crazy because, but people listen, you know, all of a sudden you'd hear the breath go in, you'd hear the breath go out, and she'd talk about yoga. But then for a long time, I haven't had anybody doing that. And then, of course, I found this special Melissa PINI, who is owner and creator of Map Keys Yoga, who is calling in from Clinton Township in Michigan. And that's, well, just for people who don't know, it's outside of Detroit, just to give you an idea. So, Melissa, I remember in your article, which was so well accepted, that you wrote about dog and goat yoga, and I was just mesmerized by that. I thought, well, okay, now how are we getting dogs involved in yoga?
It's quite interesting, actually. If we think about the practice of yoga, how much it has evolved over the years, there's all these different trends now, and the latest thing that everyone seems to be into is dog and goat yoga. And if we look at the practice from that standpoint, I think what people are doing is they're starting to include their animals and their pets in the practice. And whether some might think it's a trend or not, even myself included, at first I saw this idea of incorporating goats and your animals in the practice. And my first response was, oh, wow, that's almost, in a way, it's taking away from the heart of the practice and the tradition of it, since it does have such a strong lineage and it goes back so many years. But then if we look at it from maybe the person's perspective that's practicing with their goat or their dog, they're somehow getting that same sense of inner peace and that same feeling of the practice and finding that concentration and that truthfulness and just the beauty and the purity of the practice, but they're taking it from another standpoint. So I guess as a yoga instructor, you look at just the beauty of everyone in the world practicing yoga. And if someone's getting that same true sense of the practice with a goat or with their dog, then, you know, that's a beautiful thing to have that be a part of their life and to have the same sense of peace.
I remember I was with Melissa recently, and we talked about chickens. We both want chickens, and we can't have chickens, but I wonder if chickens can do yoga. Probably not.
Hey, you never know.
Right. Well,
I love animals, so.
But, you know, the whole point of what you do, and I know I love your studio and how you help people, but everything seems to be possible with you, and you take care of people who are hurting, people who aren't hurting, people who just want to relax. And I think you've said that yoga is really for everyone. Just depends what your need is.
It definitely is. Yoga is for everyone. I mean, regardless of where you are in the practice, yoga will meet you where you are. And most recently, I completed my master's degree. And one of the focuses that I did, my master's is in elementary education, but the last 2 semesters of the graduate program, I was able to study collaborative action research and design. And this study and the focus that I went from the direction on was yoga for the management of chronic pain. And doctors nowadays are even starting to incorporate yoga and mentioning the practice from that therapeutic standpoint. And it just goes to show that yoga is evolving in so many beautiful ways beyond just the trends, but the ability to see the practice to help everybody regardless of your ability in the practice. It'll meet you where you are, and it's amazing to have it be something that is being known now for therapeutic reasons beyond just doing poses on a mat.
Yeah, it is. And what I have found is so many people from all walks of life, all ages, all sexes, they're all participating in this. And And I don't think I've ever asked this question. What does yoga stand for? Is it short words for something?
Well, yoga means union. So it comes from the word yoke, union, and it's the joining together of the mind, the body, the spirit.
I see. So that's exactly why. How did you get interested in yoga?
That's an awesome question. It's actually one that I get asked all the time. I actually came to the practice first through meditation. As just a very small child, I was taught different meditation techniques, and I used those different techniques that I was learning, the guided meditations, for stress relief as a child even. And then as I started to get older, I would do the actual postures before dance class, and I didn't know I was doing yoga at that time. But then my very first teacher, when I was about, I don't know, maybe 5 or so, was my mom, and she was into yoga. And so she taught me the practice. And as I just started to get older, I started to look more into the philosophy of it. And I was really drawn to so much more than just the actual postures. And having my background have been in meditation, I was able to use that a lot through any obstacles in life to keep me grounded and just to keep my focus. And it really helped with just that optimism and finding that place within myself where I could find that inner peace and know that the answers were within. And that's how I like to guide my classes even, is everyone has the answers within. All people know their body and their self better than anyone else. And I believe that any questions that you're searching for, they're within. And sometimes it just takes like certain techniques or maybe a teacher to help you find those strengths.
And so you say that no matter what has happened, you can, when you say you do yoga, is it because meditation is part of the yoga, and so your mind is somewhere else and then your body is doing certain poses, and that helps to relieve the stress of the situation?
It does. It brings you more to the present moment. So just in general, when I have students come to the mat or when I come to the mat myself, you're just by simple things, by just noticing. So maybe begin by noticing just the sounds around you, and you start to become more aware of the way that your body's feeling and notice your emotions. And I think a lot of times in society we're taught to, suck it up and to stuff down your emotions. And I think that's where a lot of problems arise, and that's where a lot of times people start to experience things along the lines of chronic pain or extreme stress conditions, because they're not acknowledging the emotions or their feelings. And then it starts to wreak havoc on the body, and then the body begins to hurt because it's not able to relax.
Yeah. Okay, so let's now get to some of the very important parts in yoga. You have beginners, and you have people who are experts as you, and then you have the middle group. How do you teach a class? So just for people listening, how do you teach a class where everyone might be in different levels?
I like to teach when I have a wide variety, which does happen quite a bit, actually. I kind of look at the midline. So I try to teach towards the midline of the class. And I always welcome students to ask questions and, meet with me before a class so that they know the different variations of a posture. So if someone's, maybe a beginner and they're practicing next to someone that is maybe not a beginner, everyone's in their own journey, so they kind of travel along on their mat where they are at in their practice. But there's so many different modifications or variations of one pose that you don't have to be doing everything full out every time. It's kind of moving with where your body is at. And even, those that are maybe more seasoned or, veteran yogis, they still have days where they want to maybe take a gentler variation of the pose. So it's all just listening to the body and I try to teach so that everyone can find what feels good in the practice and move accordingly.
My guest is Melissa PINI, and Melissa is the owner and creator of Mapkeys Yoga, and she's calling in from Clinton Township, and that's in Michigan. And it's, I suppose, for people who don't know Michigan, it's near Warren. It's the big city would be Detroit, and it is really wonderful to have her talking with us. If you have Boomer Times, and hopefully everyone does, you will see her articles each month. And the last one was Dog and Goat Yoga. We are now working on a September issue, and she has another one in that. But I was always I was amazed when we first talked, and she told me about people going on these. Let's see, what are they? The little
Paddle boards.
Paddle boards, right? She's not paddling; she's doing yoga. And is that is that you?
The image?
Yeah.
No, that's actually a teacher in Aruba, and her name is Rachel Brazen, and she does do yoga. She's an instructor, and she has a studio also, but she does teach yoga on the paddle boards. And it's actually quite fun. I have done that myself, and it brings a whole new level of balance to it. You know, have the waves that are kind of rocking the paddleboard, and it's quite fun. I mean, I highly recommend people give it a try if they're interested.
Well, the one thing, though, I notice is that as a yoga professional teacher, you do keep your body trim, because I don't think I've noticed any yoga teachers who are overweight. Why is that?
Well, I think it's all relative. I mean, every body is different. Every person is different. I don't really think there's any one standard way a yogi looks. It's just all relative to the person, and I'm a firm believer in kind of rocking what you have. So, you know, as long as you feel good and you're treating your body with respect and loving your body, you know, it's really just, you know, a personal thing. But I do, myself personally, I do try to eat very clean. I treat my body sort of like my temple. So, you know, just like when you have your car, you want to fuel it with proper fuel so that it drives properly. I kind of think of nutrition the same way. And, you know, I want to have energy to be able to teach my classes and interact with my students. And, you know, I love to learn. So I'm always, you know, doing a lot of reading and researching. And, you know, if you don't eat properly, then, you know, you don't have that energy to keep up an active lifestyle.
Yeah, that's very true. So what you also do something, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I'd like to. You also have become a Reiki a practitioner. Is that what we'd call that?
Right. Yeah. I'm a Reiki teacher, Reiki master teacher. So I went through a long training program. It was 3 levels, and it was a very intense practice that I went through to learn to become a Reiki master teacher. And then beyond that, after I completed my training, Reiki is a Japanese healing method. So it's a no-touch healing method, and it plays around with the energy fields of the body. And being someone that loves to learn, as I mentioned, I started to learn more about the actual culture of it, and have it being a Japanese healing method. I started to learn Japanese myself so that I would feel more in line with the tradition, and it just brings another aspect to the practice of Reiki, if having that strong lineage in the practice.
And I don't know if you do get pains, and I'm sure from time to time you have had that. What would you do? Would you do yoga? Would you have someone do Reiki on you? Would you have massage? What would you do, Melissa?
All of it. Definitely all of it.
That's a good answer.
Absolutely. So I very much try to do things holistically. I'm pretty big in, you know, holistic and green living, and rather than using pharmaceuticals, I try to do things, you know, naturally. And there are a lot of yoga poses. Like, for example, I do get migraines, and there are definitely poses that I will do, definitely different asanas for when I feel a migraine coming on. And, I definitely do give myself Reiki treatments. I also do it to my dog, and she loves it as well. I think animals are really in tune with that. I do have clients that I do it on, but for myself, I definitely notice that it definitely helps quite a bit. And massage is a big one too. There is even reflexology and acupuncture. Those are all pretty natural ways to go.
So if someone is in pain, would they be able to do the poses that a normal yoga class would do? I mean, how do you help them if they can't, let's say, move their arm to the right or leg, or what do you do?
I do with chronic pain, those that are in chronic pain. Restorative postures are usually really good. And I work with a lot of the breathing techniques. I think starting with something like working through the different pranayama techniques so that they know different ways to control the breath. And then using the breath to start to kind of guide where you are in the practice. And then from there, kind of work with the more restorative postures with using props and, just working with people's mobility levels. Everyone has different mobility and limited mobility. And even just working from a chair, there's certain things that you can do just from a chair. And it's all, every body is different and everybody is different. So just kind of noticing where people are at, and I let them guide.
And I know
I have obviously a plan, but
yeah, I understand that. So, and I know that if I asked you this question, I know what the answer is. People can do yoga no matter what age they are. How old is your oldest student, do you think?
My oldest student I have currently is 85.
85.
Right. Yeah.
And has she been doing yoga for many years?
She herself has been doing. She's very does a lot of aerobic stuff, and so she's in really good shape. Actually, age is really nothing these days.
Right.
But yeah, it's really amazing. I look at I always ask those that are older than me. I'm always like, oh, well, what's your secret?
Right.
And it's always the same. They always say, well, I try to, love my body, and I eat healthy, and, just kind of keep moving, because the one thing I always hear from everyone is, you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that is true, but I think that as you do, you eat clean, you do exercise, and I know you do get migraine headaches, but I guess you've learned how to deal with that also. So nothing is ever perfect, is it? You just do the best you can with what you have.
Absolutely. Everybody has something.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody does have something. But let's
it's all in the way you look at it.
That's right. It's all in the way. And so you have such a beautiful studio. I hope that people who are listening to this, if you are across the country and you get a chance to go to Clinton Township, you'll want to stop in and see Melissa. I'm going to give you her, let's just go to your website, and that's MAP, M-A-P, Keys, K-E-Y-S, yoga.com, mapkeysyoga.com, and you'll be able to see lots of things that Melissa has on her website. I know that you put all sorts of interesting slogans and information on your website for people to go to. So even if they don't live close to you, they still can enjoy it.
Oh, sure. And I highly recommend that everyone checks out the media page on the website, too. There's a really awesome area there where you'll see some Boomer Times and the interviews, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, it is. You are awesome. That's right. That's what makes it so great. So getting back, though, to what I wanted to ask on your when you're doing yoga, let's say you're doing yoga at home, and I know you have your dog so trained, your dog can do lots of very cute little poses, but Do you think that a dog, if you're lying down on the floor, well, just think about me. If I had Charlie, if I was lying down on the floor and I had Charlie next to me, what's he going to do? I can't get him to do any poses as I'm lying there. Can I?
Well, I mean, dogs are very intuitive. They kind of do their own thing, though. But what I think, he does is, animals, they'll come, you kind of will notice, they'll actually gravitate towards you. If you're lying on the floor, maybe doing some stretching, what will they do? Usually they come and lie next to you, or, they'll start breathing, and then if you focus on their breathing and then your breathing, just kind of watch animals. They're very in tune. I feel like they know.
Right. Well, Charlie wants to lick. When I'm on the floor, if I get near him, he starts licking my face and my legs, and also that's not going to go very well with yoga.
Aww.
But of course, I know that lady. You have done some cute things with her, and maybe some people can do that with their dogs too. But the most important item and the issue for you is to let people know that yoga is a whole new way for people to live. It's not, and I don't think it just has to be one way or one time, but it sounds like you have made this into part of your life. Like you eat breakfast, you eat lunch, you do yoga, you do, you do other kinds of exercise. And you don't probably have to do it for very long. I mean, can you do yoga for 10 minutes?
You can, absolutely. There's really, as long as you're just, even sometimes I'll recommend or I'll suggest just go sit on your yoga mat. And you'll notice, as soon as you just kind of sit on your yoga mat, most likely you'll do maybe one stretch. And then maybe you'll do two stretches. And then just start there, and you'll start to notice that it'll make you feel better, and then you'll start to maybe make your practice a little bit longer. But just something as simple as just sitting down and breathing. You'll start to notice it'll start to relax the mind. It'll start to breathe life into your soul, and it's a discipline. It's a lifestyle practice. So it's better to do just 5 minutes of yoga, 5 minutes of breathing, maybe a little bit of asana, and every day then to do one practice for an hour or something like that once a week.
So, Melissa, when you say about breathing, it's not just sitting there and breathing like you breathe as you're, at the dinner table. I mean, is it in, out? Explain what you mean.
One example of a breathing technique is if you can notice just naturally where your breath is. You notice it more when you're breathing. Are you breathing more from your chest, or do you notice the breath more in the belly? And if we think about following the breath on a journey of sensation, we might start to notice the breath in 3 parts. So maybe we start to notice just the natural breath, the rise and fall with each inhalation and exhalation. And then maybe we start to notice the breath more as we deepen it in the base of the belly, deep down into the belly. And then we'll start to draw the breath up from the belly towards the chest, maybe up towards the tip of the nose. There might be a slight pause. And then as you exhale, start to follow that breath down from the nose to the chest, and then deep down into the belly once again. And if you repeat that cycle, that 3-part yogic breath, the belly breathing, you'll start to notice maybe you feel a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed.
So the breathing sounds like it's the most important part of this whole thing. I mean, you can be sitting there, but if you don't breathe, it's not yoga, is it?
Right. That's what makes yoga is that connection with the breath.
It's funny when we think about that, because the first thing that a person does when they come out, as a baby, is they breathe. And the last thing is they breathe before they die.
That's a very beautiful way to think about it. You're right.
So with the way so well that you breathe, you're never going to die. I hope. I mean, it's.
Oh, wow.
But you can imagine how the breath is. There are people, of course, who live in this world. I know there are a lot of people in India and Himalaya and other places where that's just what they do. They sit there and they just breathe, and they sit in very strange positions. And I guess they're called yogis, aren't they? Or what are they?
Yeah, you could call them yogis. It's just, you're right. It's breathing is a necessity. It's the one thing you always have with you, like you said, from the time you're born to the time you leave. And no matter where you go, whether you're just in your regular daily life or if you're on your mat, the one thing you always have is your breath.
That's right. Well, you have a lot more than just your breath. You can do these marvelous things, and I'm so happy that Melissa now takes the time to write an article for us and then to be on the radio show, because I've had a lot of other people who are yoga experts, but I've never had someone as on my show and all that. But you're special, and I'm so glad. I hope you'll continue to do this.
It's a true honor. It's an absolute honor to be a part of the beautiful thing that you've created. I'm beyond humbled to be a part of it.
And I'm beyond humbled to have you be a part of it. So thank you. Now that we have this caring society for both of us. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of the day.
You too, honey. Bye.
Bye.